I joined Learn to Cope in 2008 when my son was struggling with opiate addiction.
I got involved with Learn to Cope in 2007, and my daughter was in crisis with addiction. Therefore, our family was in crisis.
I started to attend Learn to Cope in 2008 because of my son's addiction.
When your loved one is suffering from substance use disorder and/or mental health concerns, the family is dramatically impacted.
When we realized his addiction, the sickness began to escalate through the family.
I really didn't know much. There was not any help for parents.
And there was no information available in our communities at all about addiction.
I just remembered seeing an article in the Patriot Ledger about this woman named Joanne Peterson who was trying to start a support group for parents of addicted kids. I went to my first meeting that same week. It was like a weight was lifted off of me.
When I walked in and I saw the people and I saw Joanne, I just took a breath. I felt like I was home.
I had been struggling with my son for years, but for the first time, I found people that understood not only what it was that he was going through, but more importantly, what it was that I and my family were going through.
Learn to Cope is a family support network for families dealing with substance use disorder and mental health. The main services that we provide are support, education, and hope. Hope is a resource. It's not something you can really see, but when you can give it out to somebody and they can feel it back, that's a resource.
And Learn to Cope ended up being really my lifeline. Going to those meetings and talking to other parents and coming up with some solutions and actions really saved my sanity.
Through Learn to Cope, I learned about the disease. I became more and more hopeful. I know that what I found at Learn to Cope was a lifesaver for me and my family.
I could share my pain and my emotions with people who understood.
When our members get together for activities other than meetings, whether it's they get together for the yoga or for the hiking group or for the paint nights, etc., what I see is people getting together and talking. There's a real sense of friendship and solidarity.
So Learn to Cope is always there for all our families, regardless of the situation, whether their loved one gets better, doesn't get better. We're open to all pathways of treatment. We're not there to tell anyone what pathway they should take to find their recovery. Whatever pathway they take to get there and whatever works for them is what works for us. We're there for each other, and there's no judgment, no stigma.
Central to the Learn to Cope message is hope.
Hope is a feeling that I have every day. I hope that my mother will eventually recover with her journey.
What gives me hope is when I see a family recover and somebody that comes to our meeting to give back and talks about the journey that they've been to. They're now in a good place and they're helping someone else. That gives me hope.
We are surrounded by resilience. The founder of Learn to Cope is one of the most resilient people I've ever met. And all of those principles have been instilled in the organization.
Hope and resilience means to me staying active in a fight against pharmaceutical companies targeting our loved ones to use opiates and then blaming it on them.
I became a stronger person because of the support I got from Joanne and all the women that I spoke to every week.
I don't know what a lot of families would do without having Learn to Cope available for them.
I think I would have crumbled on the floor somewhere hadn't it been for Learn to Cope. But I walked it with them and just found wonderful things to make me smile again, make me laugh, make me be able to raise my beautiful granddaughter. And you will too, and you can too.
I realized that I needed my Learn to Cope family as I came to know them. I needed that family in order to maintain my sanity, and oftentimes it was just walking into a meeting and seeing familiar faces and having that feeling of warmth and that embrace and that space, that sacred space being held for you.
It's like a family. I can come and talk, and I love meeting them in person.
I would encourage families who are struggling with this disease to find and attend a Learn to Cope meeting. You will find a resilient group full of hope and support.
I feel really proud to be a member of Learn to Cope and what they offer our communities.
Come to Learn to Cope as a member and leave as an advocate.
Learn to Cope has been my saving grace, and it still is.
The best thing I ever did was to save that article in the Patriot Ledger. Joanne was a lifesaver.
I'm not alone. clearly with the community that I have at Learn to Cope and my grief.
You will find hope. You will find resilience there for yourself and your loved one.
I want to thank all of my friends at Learn to Cope that I've met over the whole last 20 years that will always be my friends and that will be the reason I'm where I am today. And the team and all the volunteers and all the hard work that they do. This has never been a one-man show. There's a lot of work that goes on behind it, and there's been a lot of people over the last 20 years that have had my back through my own journey, my own grief, my own loss, and watched also a lot of really good things happen in my family and see family recovery too. It's just been such a pleasure to know all of you and to see the warriors that you have inside, to see the good things happen and to be there for each other when the not so good things happen. So thank you just for being a part of my life and being a part of Learn to Cope. Every one of you from over so many years. I'll never forget any of you.
There is hope, so you are not alone.
Hay esperanza y no estás solo.
There is hope.
You are not alone.
There is hope.
There is hope.
You are not alone.